Yeah, I mean they're boys. I'm sure they enjoy a little trip to Buffalo Wild Wings after practice. But I mean, they're not. It doesn't mean Hartman's there. I mean, Pop, what's going on, man?
Son, exciting day. Exciting day.
Exciting day. Pop is juiced up for this, guys. We are giving away a Jayden Daniels jersey today. Pop floated the idea earlier in the year. I said, you know what? Let's make it happen. And here we are, guys. Thank you. We have hit 500 subscribers.
Ahead of schedule.
We are so excited to celebrate this. Yeah, ahead of schedule, just about for the start of training camp, so almost a month ahead of when our goal was. So thank you all. And for those of you who were astute enough, the 23 of you who were astute enough to send the email, join the giveaway, follow the instructions, guys, you are here today in the Commander's hat as modeled by Cliff Kingsbury during training camp. Pop, show that hat off real quick.
Got the NFL emblem on the back.
There it
Commanders.
is.
It's got all the entries in there.
Beautiful, and that's a collector's item because that has the wrong dates on it for the Super Bowl year too. That's a classic Commanders collector's item right there. So, Pop, shake that thing up in front of the camera. Let them know
it's been well shook. It's been well shook already.
There it is.
Up and down. I can hear it. And Shall Pop, we do this?
Do it. Pull out that
all
name.
Right. I'm going to name first name only. Good luck, everyone.
Drum roll.
The winner is Jorge.
All right, Jorge.
Yes, sir.
Give it up for the young man, Jorge. Congratulations. Drop a comment. Let the people know how you're feeling after that win, and we will be in touch to secure up your giveaway. And guys, keep an eye on your mailboxes. 2 or 3 of you might get some little thank you gifts for participating as well. We're thinking about sending out some T-shirts. So, guys, everybody, again, thank you so much for joining. Jorge.
That's Jorge.
Congratulations. And what do you say we do a podcast now, Pop?
I hope I pronounce that name right. That's my guess. It's got to be Jorge.
It's got to be Jorge. What do you say we do? And you know what?
Give it the last name's got to be.
I bet you, even if you messed it up, Jorge will forgive you as soon as he's got that crispy Jayden Daniels jersey on.
You should have it in time for the season. It's awesome.
So. And Jorge, do us a favor. If you're on Twitter, tweet us at DC Sports Plus. Picture you in that jersey when you get it. We'll retweet it, give you a shout out. Maybe we can even put it up in the video. But let's keep it rolling, Pop. What do you say we talk a little training camp?
Let's do it.
So, first things first. In the theme of today's episode, we're talking Jayden Daniels hype meter. Jorge might have the jersey of the offensive rookie of the year, as far as I'm concerned, the way this hype meter is going. At this point, Daniel is taking most of the first team reps. He's not officially named the starter, but according to Dan Quinn, he's got an awesome blend of confidence and humility, and he's really off to a great start. So, Pop, what do you make of that?
Dan Quinn was on with Kay Adams, so there was a lot of national visits and national hype. I think the NFL Network was out there as well, and he just was effusive in his praise of Jayden Daniels.
Yeah.
So I think you're seeing him take more and more snaps with the first team, as you mentioned, and I think it's only a matter of time. But it's hard to hear anything but much praise. He seems like the real deal. Can't wait to actually see him, out there playing. Not sure if we'll see that in these. How much of him we'll see in the preseason games, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah,
but, just really good stuff with Jayden.
Yeah, I'm getting super excited about Jayden. I mean, it's just pretty wild. Again, when you kind of read, I've been saying this, but you read in between the lines of what the media personnel are saying and what the people who are there are saying. We heard, maybe Wentz is more of a gamer. Maybe he's less of a practice player. We heard, Howell, he's got some things to work on, but he's much improved since his rookie year. And then Jayden, the tone has been, all right, well, he looks incredible in OTAs. He's doing everything that he could possibly do in this situation. Let's see how he looks in training camp. And then we see him in training camp and we go, oh my gosh, he's doing great in 11 on 11s. He's feeling the rush well. He's handling everything really well. Let's see if he can start making some of these throws in the games because the
Yep.
throws that he's making in practice are elite. And it's like you just hear the way this thing is progressing, and it's like it makes you feel really good about where this is headed with JD. I don't want to jump to too many conclusions. I made that little joke about offensive rookie of the year. He's definitely got some stiff competition, and of course that's not the expectation, but let's call it what it is, guys. This is the number 2 overall pick in the draft. This is the former Heisman winner. We should be feeling really good about the way this is going, and I'm really happy that we're at that point, and I can't wait to see what he looks like in the preseason games.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. When it comes to draft, to practice, to the off season, all you can do is judge the process, right? And when you look at Jayden Daniels, judging the process and judging the results of that process so far, it's amazing. And everything that we're hearing, and there's been a lot of, like I mentioned, national press. The NFL Network was out of training camp. The Pivot podcast was out there. There's some great content out on YouTube. Mentioned Kay Adams, and every time the question about Jayden Daniels comes up, his teammates are effusive. Jahan Dotson, Eckler,
Yeah,
Ertz, all these guys, right? Daron Payne. I mean, they're all effusive. They can see the difference. You can see the size difference, the ability to make elite type throws. And I think that's the exciting part, is that you mentioned last week you were most excited to see what he could do with his legs in terms of that, that secret weapon, right? Or, his superpower would probably be his ability to run. But it's his throwing. It's his throwing. It's his presence in the pocket. It's his ability to place the ball wherever it needs to be that's getting all the hype. You add on top of that his ability to move with his legs. It's really exciting. And, and the thing is, football's right around the corner. We've already had one preseason game. We've got preseason games coming up, next week in the joint practice with the Jets. So we're going to have a lot more tape and a lot more evidence of what this team can do. Not only Jayden, but the weapons that we've added, right? I mentioned Eckler, Ertz, and those guys.
Sure. Yeah, it's really exciting stuff, man.
So where are you on the hype meter? 1 to 10. I think you were an 8.5 the last time we did this.
Oh man, I started off too high. I didn't give myself enough room to move.
I think you might have even gone 10, if I remember right.
Move up. Yeah, I'll give it. I mean, I think I'm about as high as I can be at this point. I'll take it a 10. I mean, I don't think we're going to go win the Super Bowl this year by any means, right? I'm not declaring this guy the next John Elway or whatever, but right. I am as excited about Jayden as I am capable of being, given the trauma that I've lived through in the last 27 years of being a Washington Commanders fan. But definitely very excited for JD.
Yeah, I think it is kind of crazy about, if you compare the hype that seemed to surround an RG3 as the number 2 pick in the draft versus Jayden now, it just seems like it's a lot more level-headed, a lot more guarded. And I've been a little bit of a critic of Dan Quinn in a sense of like him not naming a starting quarterback. Not naming Jayden the starter, but you're seeing, as long as he's getting the practice reps, I think that's what makes the most sense. But I do like the fact that he's, if you compare and contrast to Ron and Sam Howell, and Ron anointing Sam Howell the starter pretty much because he played one decent game against the Cowboys at the end of the season, he was immediately anointed the starter. I think this is a much better process and a much better way of going about it, right?
Yeah.
So, it's fun to watch. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's a bit of a Ron Rivera tie-in with some of our later comments, but yeah, I mean, he just threw a guy in Howell that was just never ready for the job. He just threw him into the fire to try and save his own culo, essentially, and really hurt his development. And it's just cool to see the complete opposite attitude being taken with Jayden Daniels. We even look back to like the choice in QB2. I know Pop, number 0 on your program, number 1 in your hearts, Martin Mariota. Pop's favorite player, Marcus Mariota. Of course, that's a long-standing joke of the pod there. But even in the choice to go get him as the backup, that's a guy, number 2 overall draft pick, won the Heisman the year before he came out. And then you see the pictures on social media that have been going around recently of Jayden Daniels wearing that Marcus Mariota jersey when he was a kid, when he first got drafted to the Titans. A guy that Jayden used to look up to is now guiding Jayden. All these things that are going into kind of nurturing him and creating this quarterback of the future for the Commanders, hopefully. And you look at pairing him with a guy like Eckler, pairing him with a guy like Ertz, Terry, Jahan, maybe not going out and making the big splash at wide receiver in a diva who's going to be looking for the ball 12 times a game and care about that more than anything else. It's pretty cool the way they've been setting this up and the difference.
You sleep on Sam Hartman winning that backup job.
Sam Hartman's not winning that backup. Sam Hartman's not winning the third string job. Sam Hartman is going to lead the practice squad. You don't bring in Jeff Driscoll and then make Sam Hartman your number 2.
Hey, man, they're BFFs. It's got to count for something.
Yeah, I mean they're boys. I'm sure they enjoy a little trip to Buffalo Wild Wings after practice. But I mean, they're not. It doesn't mean Hartman's there. I mean, maybe Hartman knows how to mix up Jayden Daniels Gatorade in a way JD loves it. But let's move on. That's great stuff there, Paul. That's a lot of fun. So 3 standouts so far in camp, and Pop, I got to tell you, I am absolutely juiced that 2 of these are from the draft class this year. I mean, can you imagine the concept? I know we haven't seen it in damn near, 5 years, but can you imagine the concept of our draft picks are actually going to contribute to what's happening in their rookie year? Can you imagine that? Have you ever seen that before?
It's possible. It's still early. It's training camp. We've gotten excited about guys in training camp before. But, yeah, I mean, it seems like we've got a couple of guys here that are really balling out. And,
yeah,
I think you're going to get into the names. But if these guys hit like it looks like they're going to hit, that would be absolutely incredible.
Yep. And, of course, I'm talking about Brandon Coleman, Mike Sanistrell, and Brian Robinson so far standing out. So you knew B-Rob. We've all been waiting for him to take that next step. I think he would have taken it last year if the offensive coordinator, who shall no longer be named on this podcast, actually handed the ball off. I think that would have been – I think you would have taken that step, but I think this year you're going to have a much more balanced approach with run to pass. So B-Rob's going to take that next step. Looks like an absolute tank. But I want to spend most of our energy talking about Brandon Coleman and Mike Sanistrell, if that's okay with you, Pop, because these are new guys on the block. These are rookies, and these are guys that I think are going to have a tremendous impact on the team, both on and off the field, going into the year. So first things first, Brandon Coleman has not been named the starter. He's not officially the starter at left tackle. But from how everything looks going into this week with the Jets, who, by the way, have an elite defensive line, so he'll definitely get a real test here. But based on how everything is looking, is it crazy to say that this is Brandon Coleman's job to lose at left tackle?
It appears that way. I mean, from the reporting that we're hearing, and, they said that Brandon Coleman and Sam Cosmi were the only 2 offensive linemen that didn't lose their one-on-one battles in camp. So when they had one-on-one drills with the D linemen, and you think about who Sam Cosmi went up against in terms of those D tackles, that's another story, but he looks the part. He's playing really well. To think that you could land a starting tackle in the 3rd round of the draft would be definitely some Adam Peters magic.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that if you think of the experience that we had last year with our 3rd round tackle that was drafted, who didn't look like he could play at all. And now we've got Brandon Coleman in this situation. Maybe it's just some of the positive vibes or karma that's turning this thing around, because I think there's got to be a tad bit of luck involved if you if you land somebody like this, but I'll give all the credit where credit's due. But yeah, it's super exciting. I'm starting to come around. I've been super cautious about Brandon,
Yeah.
just from the just from the metrics of it all. Third round pick. There were a lot of running tackles that got picked ahead of him, but obviously you hear about his footwork and his talent. Maybe a little undersized for the position, but so far so good from all the reports we're hearing, and that would be huge. Would
Well,
be
just
absolutely huge.
yeah, because then that sets up what I've already described, which is the competition at right tackle with Cornelius Lucas and Andrew Wiley. Now, they've both
Right.
had some extenuating circumstances that have caused them to be off the field. I know Lucas has been dealing with some personal stuff. Sounds like it's relatively important. I hope everything's okay there. And Wiley obviously has been dealing with some injuries on and off. So it hasn't been a full on like every practice, the two of them going back and forth. But it really seems like that job is not settled. And then JP Finley has kind of astutely pointed out, hey, Wiley's best playing as a player in the NFL has actually been at left guard. So does Wiley maybe contribute to that left guard position, which it sounds like, unfortunately, our Paisan Nick Allegretti has not quite gotten off to the start that we hoped he would take there. And it seems like there's a little bit of unsure situation. I can't think of the right word. I'm blanking. But it seems like there's a little bit of insecurity at that left guard position right now. Maybe Wiley kicks over there. Sounds like more and more across the league, you're moving linemen around the line and you just want to get your best five guys out there as opposed to really like positional specialists. So maybe Wiley's that best fifth guy at left guard. I think as this week comes up, and we've got a whole nother podcast for you guys talking about Jets practice, Jets preseason coming up later this week. So I think as this week comes up, we'll get a better idea of that and what that starting five really looks like. But I do think Brandon Coleman at that left tackle position opens up a world of possibilities for what this offensive line can be. And just credit to Peters and Harris and Quinn for having a plan. I know I'm kind of rambling on here, but I'm going to make this last point and then we're done on Coleman. They have did such a good job in identifying guys at every stage in the draft that could help them. And Brandon Coleman is an example of that. They had the faith. Hey, we got this guy later in the draft that we know we can go get where with the assets that we have. If the board falls in such a way that there's a run on tackles early and some of the guys who we projected might be available for us in that second round are not available. And on draft night, you see that preparation take hold. Tackles are running off the board. They say, you know what? We're not going to reach. We're not going to overpay because we have confidence in this Brandon Coleman guy later on in the draft that he can give us what we need, at least give us a chance. And then they can go get Johnny Newton, who could be a huge difference maker on the defense. Anyways, that's a lot of big man talk. Enjoy that for what it's worth, guys. But Mike Samerstro is another guy that I think is a huge component on the defense. Pop, you want to talk a little Mikey S for the boys here?
Yeah, I think we talk about the surprise of Brandon Coleman. I mean, Mike Sanestraw is probably less of a surprise because of what we knew that we had with him.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to definitely see what Mike's going to do through all of this. To think about the fact that I think people are saying he cemented that starting corner slot position. Is amazing, and I think Mike is exciting prospect, and cornerback is such a position of need, and I wonder if he's got more versatility than just that slot role too. We've seen some indication of that, but we definitely I think we've got a baller there in Mike Sandstrom.
Yeah. He is who we thought he was. He is, so far, it seems to be, Nick Saban, pound for pound, best player in the NFL draft. And then off the field, the leadership aspect, from everything that I've been hearing, it sounds like he's like one of the more prominent figures in the locker room. Guys are gravitating towards him. People seem to love him. He seems to be, by all intents and purposes, a commander, dare I say, as the guys have kind of articulated that and given out that like gold cap. so to speak. So, should we move on the standouts, Pop?
I think so. I think so. I think it's exciting to hear. I know we didn't touch too much on B Rob, but B Rob's B Rob, like you said. I don't think there's many big surprises there, but great to hear. I think in some of the versatility we're seeing with him continuing to develop as a pass catcher is exciting.
There was one face in DC sports that's been yelling about that for 2 years. I'm just saying, go check the tape. Go check the tape. I've been yelling about B Rob's pass catching ability for years. I'm glad to see that now that we have people who know what's going on with football, they're also recognizing that and starting to talk about developing that. And I love the chemistry between him and Eckler too. It sounds like there's a real competitive mindset there. But
I think Eckler and Ertz both have a lot of juice still left in the tank. It'll just come down to health. But if those guys are healthy, they're going to be big contributors. And the cool thing with Eckler and B Rob is they are much closer interchangeable parts than you think. I do think Eckler can run the ball, and I think B Rob can pass the ball. Now, I don't think either one is quite as effective as the other in those instances, especially as a power runner like B Rob. Eckler's not that. And I don't think, B Rob has the wiggle and the speed that Eckler has. But the fact that, that can throw defensive off, it's not automatically a run if B Rob's in there and automatically a pass if it's Eckler. I think that's exciting going forward.
Sure, yeah, I think that's huge for the team. Let's talk a little bit of Emmanuel Forbes. I think is the next topic. We got Emmanuel Forbes and we got Jamin Davis. So we're going to talk a little bit of past first rounders. We talked a little Ron Rivera earlier. We're going to talk a little more Ron Rivera now. But where do we see these guys kind of fitting in going forward as a part of this team? I think Pop has some Emmanuel Forbes reports he might want to share.
Yeah, I think it's just in general, he seems to be getting a lot of run with the ones. And he's battling with Terry McLaurin. I think he's winning some of those, losing some of those, but seems like he's trending positively in terms of Emmanuel Forbes. And that's great to see. I still think I'm proceeding with a bit of caution there. But as JP continues to remind everyone, he was a projected first-round pick. He is a kid with a lot of talent. Maybe we stretched a little bit in picking him where we picked him, but he's someone that this coaching staff, I think, also had highly rated as a corner. So let's hope that trend continues. I think we're going to all need to see it on the field. But that could be a big win. We talk about the misses in the draft, but when you talk about guys like a Sam Cosmi and potentially an Emmanuel Forbes contributing to this team as well, and this coaching staff giving them the opportunity to do that could be big.
Yeah, it's you guys know how I feel about that projected first round pick narrative. I appreciate JP hyping up the boy though. I love that. But I think personally, I think Emmanuel Forbes is gonna give it what he's got. Who knows what he's got? We're going to have to find out. I think you got to do more in terms of the scheme, getting this guy in space, opening up what we're dealing with there, as opposed to just putting him in press man against A.J. Brown for an entire game. I think that's a disaster. But obviously we found out that's not how we're going to do it. We're going to see what's going on with Emmanuel Forbes. How is he going to shape up? Kind of only one way to find out, and it's going to be, week 1 against Tampa. How many snaps is Forbes getting? Who is Forbes lining up against? And, what does that look like? I think it's going to have to just continue that battle. Now, somebody who, obviously he's going to be on the roster. Obviously he's going to have a chance, right? Somebody who more and more is starting to look like might not be on the roster is a guy like Jamin Davis. Yeah. That is a grim situation. And you want to talk about, again, a guy just completely set up for failure by the previous administration. I for all the negative things I've had to say about Jamin and the product that he's put on the football field, I stand by them. But Jamin, the man, I feel bad for because he was not put in a position to succeed at all by the previous administration. And now he's left in this place where he didn't get the development that he needed. He was overdrafted. Now he's being held to the standard that he was not ready to rise to. and then was being played completely out of position. First, you're a middle linebacker. Oh, now you're not a middle linebacker. We're going to put you on the outside. Now you're not an outside linebacker. We're going to put you back in the middle. Just all over the place over the last few years. Never had a chance to settle in, never had a chance to develop and use that raw athleticism. And now, all of a sudden, he's being switched to edge rusher, which is a huge switch. I mean, the guy's probably 30, 40 pounds underweight to be playing edge rusher, and that's not looking so good right now. So I think Jamin Davis is a guy that you might see credit to. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was on Kimes' podcast earlier in the week. I think it's a guy you might see traded towards the end of training camp for a sixth rounder or a fifth rounder or something like that to a team that might just be really thin at linebacker and want to take a swing at something. I think it's a guy you might see cut. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree. He seems to be put in a real tough spot in terms of the edge rusher position. You hear him struggling, you hear him not really winning, and we know that, maybe a Brandon Coleman is standing out, but our offensive line is not really necessarily, at this point at stage of things seen as elite. And the fact that he can't beat our linemen in practice is troubling. I think Jamin has done certain things well in terms of he is able to close, but in terms of that discipline and of playing linebacker and some of the instincts, there's a ton of guys that are great athletes. That's the thing. Like you get excited about his athletic ability, but there are a ton of guys out there that are great athletes, right? And I did hear Dan Quinn in one of his pressers talk about working Jamin in back at linebacker. So I think they're going to take another look at him in terms of the traditional linebacker position as well. But
Yeah,
I agree with you. It's not looking great. You wonder if he's going to be on this roster to start the season, which is disappointing.
With the athleticism thing, it's like you see it in the NBA all the time. You got a guy that's 7'4", but he can't play basketball. He's just 7'4". Like, doesn't help. And I don't think it's the case with Jamin. I don't think it's a guy that can't play football. I think it's a guy that got a really raw deal. I think he got
at the end of the day, you really think of it, right? And you go, okay, he's in the last year of his deal. What's the point of having him on the team if you don't see a future there, or you don't see the ability, you don't really trust him enough to put him on the field? And that's kind of the sense you're getting from these guys a little bit, right? So, it just went every time Dan Quinn gets asked about Jamin Davis, he's obviously extremely professional, but as effusive as he's been about guys like John Allen or Daron Payne or Johnny Newton or some of the other guys that are, a couple of those guys are carryover guys, a Sam Cosmi.
Yeah.
He's definitely pumping the brakes big time when he talks about Jamin Davis. And that's, it's pretty telling, I think.
Yeah. Jamin's kind of it's like if you could drive the ball 330 yards, but you can't hit a wedge. It's still not going to get there.
Okay.
He has all the athleticism, but the discipline's just not there right now, and he just hasn't quite found his fit. But Jamin Davis, the person, wish him nothing but the best. Hope things work out for him. If it's not in DC, I would love for things to work out for him in DC. I love a good redemption story. But I hope he at least gets another shot somewhere else and somebody can kind of better evaluate and identify.
Yeah, I mean, he needed to come in as a backup special teams guy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he just, like you said, he just was put in a terrible position.
Yep. But real quick, Pop, to wrap this thing up, let's try and get this one done pretty speedily here.
Mine will be fast.
Way too early bold predictions for the 2024 season based on training camp so far. I'm going to add a caveat, not Jayden Daniels related. Because I don't think either of us want to put unfair expectations on him going into the year. I think we want to keep that trend going. What is your way too early prediction?
I really believe in this defense. I really believe in this coaching staff. I'm going to say this defense is a top 10 to 12 defense in the NFL next year.
Wow. That's
very
big.
High on the D.
That's big.
I think they're going to make a big jump.
I could see it. I think my way too early bold prediction is I think Brian Robinson finishes top 8 in the NFL for total yards as a running back. That's my way too early bold prediction.
That's a big one.
I think Brian Robinson is going to win some fantasy leagues this year. I think
That's
If
a big
everything
one.
goes the way it's supposed to go, B-Rob's able to do what B-Rob's able to do. Maybe Eckler misses 4 to 6 games with the age and the injury concerns. I think B-Rob's going to eat.
Let us know in the comments. What's yours? What do you think of ours? We would love to hear from you.
And shall we wrap this thing up, Pop?
Let's wrap it.
All right. Well, without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pot.
And thanks for another great week, everybody.
Bye.